Why do people argue about what the diminished chord is and how to name it? There is a conflict between jazz theory and traditional theory, and this has been going on for a very long time. In fact, in my view, what jazz musicians are saying about the diminished seventh chord comes very close to the practical world of Johann Sebastian Bach and what he was doing about 3 centuries ago. The first thing to get out of the way is whether this chord has 3 or 4 notes. At this time, I will only tell you that usually the 3-note version is called a diminished chord, and the 4-note version is either called a diminished 7th chord or a fully diminished chord. When we play a D flat or a C sharp diminished 7 chord, it is simply a structure of 4 notes separated by 3 half tones. If we play this chord, we have to decide whether we want to use D flat or C sharp as our root. Then our next note will be E. Then our next note will be G. Finally, our last note will be A sharp or B flat. And with that, we're done. We can use any spelling that suits us, and we pick the spelling according to what our next chord is going to be. This is what I call an intuitive solution. When you play chords like this, you don't decide what you're going to call them until you notate them, which you aren't going to do at all if you are simply improvising. Remember that improvising puts you into a purely sound world without names, and a great deal of that time it is the same world of Johann Sebastian Bach. Now comes the rabbit hole. The traditional theory rules for this chord are going to be totally different. Everything you analyze or name is going to be based on an inflexible rule determining what it has to look like on the page. So with this system, you start off with a half diminished chord in snowman form. You turn it into a diminished 7 chord by lowering the top note without changing the letter. If you change the spelling of this chord so that the snowman chord goes away, you have to restack the chord to get that snowman back. And then you have to rename the chord according to the new snowman chord that you are seeing. So if I take my traditionally written C sharp diminished 7 chord and change my top note to an A sharp, I have to rename the chord as an A sharp diminished 7 chord. This is the absolute opposite to something that is intuitive. It is restrictive, limiting, illogical, and confusing. As is so often the case, what is normally taught in formal theory courses will get in your way because it is contrary to what musicians actually do. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Leave me comments about anything you like, comments about anything you'd like to see in the future, and remember that I consider all suggestions